Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! My partner Carl and I were friends at first. When he lost his house due to bankruptcy, he came to live with me. He had no job, lived in poverty, on a disability pension, of which he gave his ex half for 14 years since his wife left. In contrast, I owned my own home, had a successful business, and was pretty independent. He was very handy around the house and loved buttering, talking with the neighbors, and had a great sense of humor. He was clean and very easy to live with. We were together for 10 years, we treated each other well, but he had no rights to anything I owned and vice versa. I stayed away from his family drama as best as I could. Carl had two adult kids, Margot, 28, and Todd, 35. The kids never visited their father, ever, and when he called them, they rarely picked up or returned his calls. If they did pick up, they brushed him off or dismissed him entirely. I felt bad for the guy, but what could I do? They were like that for years before I met him. They were rude and nasty people, but he loved them and couldn't understand why they didn't have the time to talk to him. Carl died suddenly one evening at 58. He had been in poor health, and finally his heart just gave out. Not 12 hours after he died, Margot called to ask if he had any life insurance. For a nanosecond, I thought she was concerned about my finances, handling the burial and so on. But no, she told me that according to their mother's separation agreement, he was supposed to keep life insurance on himself, and she and Todd were to be the beneficiaries. I guess he never told her that once she turned 18, he had cancelled his life insurance because he was on disability and could not afford it. He may have tried to tell her during one of those phone calls, but who knows. Later the same day, Margot called and asked if he had a will. She told me that she had already been to a lawyer. This was the first day after he died, and that because she suspected Carl didn't have a will, she would be his next of kin. She would be taking over the burial arrangements and so on, and she was a beneficiary of all of his stuff in my house, including his car, which was a used car but still newer than hers. I was pretty upset by the timing of all of this and couldn't believe they could be this mean and cruel. So soon after he died, he was their dad and loved him. She then told me she would be doing a walk through my house to be sure I didn't miss anything of his. And that was where I said no, you won't. Margot was really pissed about my refusal to let her into the house and to take the car that same day, and conveniently forgot to tell me where they were having the funeral. She didn't put it in the paper, and she only told special people where it was. I found out later it was 3 towns away, but she did let me know repeatedly that they wanted the car and all of his stuff out of my house. I knew that once she came to take the car, she would not be back to get the rest of his stuff, which she knew was nothing of any value. I will be left to get rid of a monumental amount of stuff at my expense. Cue malicious compliance. Now, dear Carl was a hoarder, and I mean that in a true sense of the word. Even if something was broken, useless, outdated, or worn out, he kept it. So, he had 4 old-style TVs, 6 giant toolboxes, 8 computers, 2 dead barbecues, a floor model drill press that he was going to fix, a bandsaw he found in a dump, 6 stereo components. None of this stuff ever worked, and he was saving them all for parts. Plus 198 boxes of metal parts from odd machines, trucks, cars, bulldozers, and buses that he salvaged and collected over the years. It was all in the garage, which he thought of his man cave. 198 very heavy boxes, because they were packed quite full. A 60-year-old 5-ton metal lathe that Noah used to construct the Ark, then shoved all of the boxes of stuff in front of it, so that it was impossible to remove the car without taking everything out in front of it, including the metal lathe. It took 2 weeks and a lot of effort, but the garage was packed to the roof. I took a picture of the garage with the doors open. Margot and Todd soon started screaming to their lawyer that I was not cooperating in regards to the car. I responded that I needed to see a legal document that the car was in fact legally theirs, registered into their name and properly insured in case they drove it away. I didn't want to be held liable. I also needed to have the rest of the stuff taken away. Plus, I had just had my driveway paved, so they had to have proper movers come to get his stuff, not just a couple of yahoos and a pickup that would damage the new driveway. They said they would after they got the car. Their lawyer screamed that I was stalling and refusing to give up the car. He even went so far as to accuse me of selling the car. I sent a picture I had taken of the garage to my lawyer, proving that I still had the car. My lawyer said, "Where is it?" I said, "You can just barely see the roof, but it's there behind the boxes." He got a good laugh out of it. So Margot and Todd had to hire a moving and storage company to come and collect Carl's precious stuff. The metal lace took 4 men and a special small tow motor machine to take it away. It took all day for them to empty that garage. I asked where were they taking it, and they said to a storage unit. The head mover said something to the effect that there was no way this was going to fit in one storage unit they had rented. Oh well. So in the end, the cost of the movers was $14,000. I heard this from his best friend, and who knows what the storage units cost and for how long they rented them. Perhaps they recouped some of the money they spent from selling scrap metal. Alright, I almost forgot. They also had to pay for his funeral. Turns out I did have an insurance policy on him that I paid for and had planned to use for his burial. But since I wasn't told where the funeral was, I used the money to pay off my mortgage. It would have cost him nothing to be nice to the woman that looked after their dad for 10 years. Hey everyone, I've got a wild story to share with you all. So the other night I was just hanging out at home minding my own business when suddenly all chaos broke loose in the neighborhood. Context: you see, my next door neighbors, John and Maria, had the cutest dog named Bella. Bella is a sweet and protective mama Rottweiler, and she had just given birth to a litter of adorable puppies a few weeks ago. Everyone in the neighborhood was excited about the little furballs. But there is this neighbor, Karen, who lives a few houses down. She's one of those entitled types, always expecting things to go her way. She had been trying to pressure John and Maria into giving her one of the puppies for her kids when they arrived, even before she gave birth to them. But they refused. They knew Bella's puppies deserved loving homes and they weren't going to just hand them out to anyone, especially Karen and her hellspawn. So a few weeks before the crazy incident with Karen, Maria and I were chatting over the fence one sunny day, and we were talking about Bella's pregnancy and how cute the puppies were going to be. Then out of the blue, Karen strolled over. "Hey Maria, I heard your dog's having puppies. How exciting. I was wondering if you could give one to my kids. They have been begging for a dog, and these puppies will be perfect for them." Maria looked a little hesitant and replied, "Oh, hi Karen. Well, we're really happy about the puppies, but we're planning to find good homes for them with responsible and caring families." One thing about Maria, she was the nicest lady I've ever met, but she could also be a savage sometimes. Karen's fake smile faltered for a moment and she continued, "Oh come on, it's just one puppy. My kids would take great care of it. Besides, it's not like you need so many puppies around here. Actually, we take our responsibility as pet owners very seriously. We want to ensure that each puppy goes to a loving home where they will be well cared for." Karen huffed, crossing her arms. "Well, I don't see why you're being so difficult about it. Yeah, Bella and all these puppies coming your way, so one won't make a difference." Maria's tone remained calm. "Every puppy makes a difference, Karen. They are all precious lives and we want the best for them." "But my kids really want one. You're just being selfish here." Karen snapped, her entitled demeanor starting to show. Now let me tell you, Maria is one strong-willed and compassionate person. She's not someone who gives in easily to pressure, especially when it comes to the well-being of animals. I'm sorry, Karen, but it's not about being selfish. We want what's best for the puppies, and we believe that means finding loving and responsible homes for each of them. Karen grumbled something under her breath and stomped away, clearly upset that she didn't get what she wanted. After that encounter, she tried a couple more times to pressure Maria and John into giving her a puppy, but each time she was met with the same response. It was clear to me that Karen didn't fully grasp the responsibilities of owning a pet. and I couldn't help but feel worried about any animal that might end up in her care. Dogs deserve love, care, and proper training, and it seemed like Karen was more interested in getting what she wanted rather than considering the needs of those puppies. Now let's get to the main course for the night. Well, one night after Bella has given birth to her cute little puppies, Karen decided to take matters into her own hands. She dressed in all black like some sort of puppy napping ninja, and she sneaked into John and Maria's yard. Can you believe it? She actually broke into their house, thinking nobody would notice one of the puppies missing. Now here is where things get interesting. Bella is one fierce and protective mama. As soon as Karen got near the puppies, Bella sensed something was off. She went full-on guard dog mode, and she charged at Karen, barking and growling with all her might. Oh boy, it was like something out of an action movie. Karen started screaming and wailing as Bella went straight at her, biting and holding her down. It was like a showdown between a protective mama and an entitled intruder. Meanwhile, I was just chilling in my house when I heard all the commotion outside. Curious and concerned, I peeked out my window to see what was going on. Let me tell you, I was in for quite the spectacle. I saw Karen lying on the ground, wrestling with Bella. Clearly, she tried to run outside when she was attacked, but Bella got up to her and pinned her down in the yard. It was like a scene from a comedy, but I knew it was serious. I immediately grabbed my phone and dialed 911 to call the cops. I mean, who wouldn't call the cops when they see someone getting attacked by a dog, right? As I was on the phone with a dispatcher, I saw John and Maria running down the stairs to see what was happening. They looked panicked and worried, of course. I opened my door and shouted to them, "Hey, your dog is going berserk on someone in your yard." They rushed over, and just as they approached, the police sirens blared in the distance. The cops arrived quickly, thank God, and they managed to pull Bella away from Karen, who was now lying on the ground, still yelling and making a scene. The police questioned John, Maria, and me, trying to figure out what the heck had just happened. They asked if anyone had seen what led to Bella attacking Karen. Of course, I told them that they can check my cameras. Karen, on the other hand, was trying to play the victim, claiming that Bella attacked her unprovoked. Oh please, we all knew what she was up to, and the police could see right through her lies because, idiotically, she decided to break into their house from the side my cameras are covering. Thankfully, Bella's puppies were safe and sound, cuddled up in their cozy little spot in the house. The police even called animal control just to be sure everything was handled properly. But since we had already managed to get Bella off of Karen, animal control wasn't really needed. As the situation calmed down, John and Maria shared with the police all the times Karen had been pressuring them to give her a puppy. They showed the cops the messages and calls they had received where she practically begged for one. I overheard Karen telling the police, "Well, they didn't want to give me a puppy, so I thought I'd just take one for my kids. They have so many, they wouldn't even notice, right?" What an entitled mindset. You can't just take someone's puppies because they didn't give you what you wanted. That's just plain wrong. The cops didn't buy her excuses for a second. They slapped the cuffs on her and she was taken away in an ambulance since she got some nasty bites from Bella. I couldn't help but chuckle at the irony. I mean, who breaks into a house to steal a puppy and expects to come out unscathed? John and Maria were both shaken but relieved that Bella had protected her babies and that the police were on their side. They thanked me for calling 911 and being a good neighbor. I mean, of course, I would do that for them. We're all in this together. In the end, Karen got what she deserved. She was charged with breaking and entering, attempted theft, and a bunch of other things. Her attempt to flip the case by claiming it was an unprovoked dog attack was quickly dismissed by the court. The evidence spoke for itself, and it was clear that Bella was just protecting her family. You know, the whole neighborhood was buzzing about this incident for days. Everyone was relieved that Bella and her puppies were safe and that Karen got caught red-handed. As for Bella, she became even more of a local celebrity. Everyone admired her for being such a brave and loyal dog. People would stop by to say hello to her and give her treats. She was like the neighborhood's mascot, and we all loved her. And you know what? I hope Karen learned her lesson. I hope those 3 years in prison she got will knock some sense into her thick skull. I remember the day I met Sandra like it was yesterday. We were both in our early 20s living in the same apartment building in the heart of the city. She was outgoing and vivacious, always surrounded by friends, while I was a bit of a loner, content to spend my evenings reading or watching movies. Despite our differences, we quickly became friends. Sandra had a way of drawing people in, and before long I found myself part of her inner circle. We spent weekends exploring the city, trying new restaurants and meeting new people. One day, while we were out for brunch, Sandra started telling me about her new boyfriend, Todd. She gushed about how handsome he was, how successful he was, and how much he adored her. I tried my best to be happy for her, but something about Todd rubbed me the wrong way. Over the next few weeks, Sandra spent less and less time with me and more time with Todd. We did hang out. She would talk about nothing else but him and how perfect their relationship was. But then things started to change. Sandra would cancel our plans at the last minute, claiming that she was too busy with work or too tired from spending time with Todd. When I did manage to see her, she seemed distracted and distant. One night, I decided to confront her. We were sitting in her living room sipping wine and chatting when I asked her what was going on. "Sandra, are you okay?" I asked. "Yeah, why do you ask?" She replied, but not meeting my gaze. "You just seem, I don't know, distant. Is everything okay with Todd?" Sandra let out a sigh. "Honestly, he's been really controlling lately. He doesn't like me spending time with anyone but him, and he's always checking my phone and my social media accounts." I felt off. I had a feeling Todd was bad news, but I never imagined he would be that bad. "Sandra, you deserve better than that. You deserve someone who trusts you and respects you." "I know," she said, tears welling up in her eyes. "But I don't know what to do. I feel trapped." And that's when I hatched my plan. I knew Todd's reputation around town, and I knew just the person to help me bring him down. A few days later, I reached out to an old acquaintance, a private investigator named Matt. Matt was known for his discretion and his ability to get results, no matter how difficult the case. I told Matt about Todd and his controlling behavior, and he agreed to take on the case. For the next few weeks, Matt followed Todd around gathering evidence of his infidelity, his drug use, and his shady business deals. It wasn't long before Matt had enough evidence to take down Todd. I remember the day Sandra called me excited. "He's gone. He's finally gone," she cried. I found out about all the things he was doing behind my back, and I kicked him out of my life for good. I couldn't help but smile. It felt good to have helped my friend get her revenge on a man who had been nothing but trouble. But it wasn't until a few days later, when I received a message from Todd himself, that I realized just how far he was willing to go to get his revenge. "You think you're so smart, don't you? Well, let me tell you something. You're next." I brushed it off as an empty threat, but as the days went on, I started to feel uneasy. I started getting anonymous phone calls in the middle of the night, and I would catch strange men following me on my way home from work. I knew Todd was behind it all. He was determined to make me pay for ruining his relationship with Sandra. I mean, I'm not sure how he figured out it was me behind all of this, or if he just took a wild guess, but it didn't really matter at this point. I was clearly in danger. I refused to let him win. I knew I had to take matters into my own hands and put an end to his harassment once and for all. I reached out to Matt again, explaining the situation and asking for his help. He agreed to take on the case, but warned me that it wouldn't be easy. Over the next few weeks, Matt worked tirelessly to gather evidence of Todd's harassment. He set up hidden cameras around my apartment building and followed Todd wherever he went, documenting every move he made. It wasn't long before we had enough evidence to take to the police. Todd was arrested and charged with stalking and harassment. I remember the satisfaction I felt as I sat in court watching Todd being led away in handcuffs. I had taken down the man who had been terrorizing me and my friend for weeks, and I had done it without ever once backing down.
And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.